Hiya, thanks very much for joining me. I'm Dean, this is Woodwork Journey, and today I'm going to try and do a quick abbreviated version of something that I've done on a live previously, and that is clean up a saw, because there are so many fantastic saws that you can get secondhand from car boot sales or marketplace or any of that sort of stuff. But this also is going to kind of lead me into a couple of videos about saws and hardware that are UK based. Anyway, we'll come to that later. I picked up this Tyzac saw, Tyzac and Turner saw. We've got this warranted Superior with a very, very confusing medallion that I've posted about in a few places. And then this warranted Superior tenon saw with an incredibly heavy spine on it, or back on it, which is going to be fantastic to clear up. I'm only going to do one of them today, and that's going to be the Tyzac, because I think it'll look pretty. But I'm going to take you through all of the actions that I'm going to go through on this, because I think it'll be something that'll be useful on the channel, and once you see how easy it is, it's going to be fine. Now, I've got to warn you, it's not going to be absolutely perfect. It's not going to come out of all of this looking like showroom condition, but what it is going to be hopefully a very usable saw that will continue to have a usable life. Right, let's get into it. Right, so what I've done here in the setup is I've got this piece of MDF that's quite thick. That's going to mean that I can actually turn that around a little bit, and then I can have the handle hanging off the end there, and I can work on the blade without putting pressure on the spine or twisting the blade in any way. Now, obviously you can remove the nuts and remove the handle as a whole. We are going to try not to do that, purely because I break things all the time, and if I'm going to remove these, I'm going to suggest that they will strip or something like that, just because of their age. So if I don't need to, I'm not going to. But yeah, you can see that this is the Tyzac & Sons affair, Tyzac and Turner, and it's a real comfortable, really comfortable grip as well. Right, let's get into it. There's some weight to there as well, so that'll be cool. Right, there's a couple of ways we can kick this off, and that is with sandpaper or all sorts of things. I'm going to try using a scraper. I've not used a scraper to clean off the initial rust before, but we're going to give that a little bit of a go. What I am going to do though, because this is just a thin card scraper, if you've got like one of those carbide posh ones, that'll probably be better, but I haven't, so there you go. Now, what we do have here though is very sharp corners, so in order to make sure that we don't scratch the blade, we need to round off those corners. Then just make sure you haven't got a burr or anything kicking off the side. Now, I have got one of these big puppies that I thought I might use, but to be honest, I think that's probably a bit extreme. So we'll see what happens. Right, let's just see. Get some WD-40. WD-40, get that on the blade. And then let's just have a little look and see what happens when we start going through it. Now, obviously, what could be going on here as well, we are aware that we might be flattening out the set on the teeth, but I don't have a smaller scraper, so I'm going to have to fix that after the event. But if you've got a smaller scraper that isn't going to scrape directly over the teeth, that would probably be a good idea to use. That alone, surprisingly, took a lot of the crud off there. That is way rougher than that. Obviously, that we're going to do a hell of a lot more to it, but I'm quite surprised. It was so smooth that I even thought that the blade might be black, but I don't think it is. Right, other side. So doing that with the scraper should mean that it saves our sandpaper quite a lot of work. Now, I've not done it against the spine because this is brass and so very, very soft, so I don't want to mess that up. But again, we've got a nice smooth starting off point. Let's go to the next stage. Okay, for this stage I'm going to use some of the Smurdex P180 that I bought from where did I buy it from? E-Abrasives in the UK, not sponsored, bought. Again, another liberal coating of WD-40. Right, let's see how that initial bit is looking. What? Progress is being made. Right, let's keep going. Now, to be honest with you, when the blade is like this, it's really smooth, so I could just use it as is, but I'm going to try and give it a little bit more loving off camera, and then we'll get the this side. I'll leave this side for the time being, so we just get to work on the one and see what it's like. Alrighty, so that is about as far as I'm going to take that on there for the time being. Obviously, you can spend as much time and energy as you want to clean up the blade. Like I say, if you took this off, that could be fine, but at the same time, I don't want to risk buggering it. But what I can tell you is it's nice and smooth, and so there isn't any pitting that's going to get caught in the middle of things. Now, one thing that I don't know if it's going to be able to show on camera, but on the teeth on this, you can see where you've got the set, because the ones that are bent out this way are nice and shiny, and the ones that are bent the other way are super dark still. So I think that's pretty interesting. Now, we'll worry about the set a bit later, but let's crack on and get the spine sorted out as well. So now I'm going to go with 240 as opposed to the 180 that I was doing before, and now I'm just going to throw this everywhere rather than just on the blade portion. Again, generous coating of WD-40 everywhere. You can let that sit for a minute if you want to, or just get into it, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm not pressing very hard when I'm doing this, by the way. I'm keeping it relatively light. Now, the brass on this is folded over, so it's not got a dead flat side. So using a pad on it might not be the best thing to do. So I'm going to crack on with a bit more on the blade. Essentially, with woodworking as well, the idea of going up through grits is the next grit, or the higher the grit, it kind of reduces the chances of seeing the last grit or the scratches from the last grit, you know. So it's like polishing, really. Okay, so that's that off. Now I'm going to use my my finger. I can put the whole thing down actually, because I'm just doing the spine now. Again, this is 240, so I'm not going too aggressive, but I am trying to go in one direction, because if you do little sort of circles or things like that, you are going to get swirls in your spine or blade or wherever you're doing it. Right, let's see what this looks like. Woof. Makes a difference, doesn't it? Okay, just for context, that's what it was like, and that's what it's like now. Pretty happy with that. Right, let's get going with some more on here. Right, leave a slight patina on that. But you can see that some of the brass is coming off on the sandpaper, so we don't want to go too heavy with that. Ideally, I'd go to 360 and what have you now, but I haven't got any. So we will get on with the with some steel wool, just like that. And I wonder, let's see if a bit of autosol that's many years old will help move things along with this steel wool. It always goes black before it goes the colour you want it to, because that's all of the crap coming off the brass and off the steel wool. Could probably do this over the whole thing actually. And the steel wool will be able to go right in the corner of things that you couldn't necessarily get the sandpaper. So again, it's dependent on how long you want to spend, how great you want to make the saw look, and all that kind of nonsense. But That steel wool actually got a lot of the sandpaper marks out, and it's looking pretty good. Okay, not quite finished that yet, but not sure if you're going to be able to see by showing that there. I don't even know if it's in focus, but we have got the number 14B written in there, engraved, and then we've also got the Tyzack and Turner logo going there. So I don't want to go hardcore with that, because that is a very strong chance that could get lost underneath everything. So I'm going to go just with the wire wool initially, and we'll see if this is man enough to get through the rust, but show the stuff underneath. Doing all of this by hand, especially if it's a saw that you want to look kind of pretty nice, or has got some engravings, or you don't know if it's got engravings, doing it by hand is absolutely harder work than using machinery, but you're going to get potentially a much better finish, because you've got more control over what's going where, and the pressure that you're putting on things with your hands is a lot less invasive than doing it with a machine, as long as you're not a gorilla about it, of course. By doing that, hopefully you can see that we're starting to get some lettering come through there now. Right, so I'm just going to crack on with that. Okay, so I mean, we're making some progress, which is lovely. And like I said, on this side we've got the I'm going to try and get it in the thing for you. There we go. We've got the Tyzack and Sons and Turner, and then a little bit further up we've got the 14B as well. So I don't want to wreck those. There's a little bit more polishing that can happen here, which is fine. But the thing that I think I've dislodged a bit of dirt or something, because there is, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little movement in the handle. So I'm going to risk taking it apart. Right, keep your fingers crossed that I don't screw this up. That happened fairly easily. Oops. And so did that one. Now at this point I could, if I wanted to, replace them. And so I've got sort of brass nuts going on, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Don't know if these were brass once upon a time, they might have been. But now by doing this and taking this off, I'm taking stress away, so there is a chance that it's going to upset the blade. Which I think it has. Okay, if we look down that blade there, we can see that the spine is ever so slightly on the squiff to the blade. Now that might be something that's problematic, or it might just be a case that the blade has moved sort of down in order to fit into here, and we might be able to fix that. So I'm going to have a go at fixing it, and if I can, I'll let you know what I did. Okay, as you can see, we've got quite the angle going on here, which is fine, but I've tapped this down a little bit further, and what we've got going on now is when it comes to fitting with the handle, we're super close to where we want to be. So it's a case of getting the spine down, the handle up. So I'm going to just use a little bit of sandpaper just on the inside of that little section right there, just to clean that out a little bit and see if we can get a nice solid fit. Okay, so I've got the holes so they line up, but seeing as we've got the handle off, we may as well give it a damn good sanding with it off. So I'm going to start with some Smurdex P100. Just like that. Let's keep going. Right, so that's gone over the main part of the handle with the 100 grit from Smurdex. It really chews through stuff really quickly, which is great. But you do have to be a little bit careful because, and I've done this before, I managed to stop myself just before I went too far, and I've taken too far off this section of the saw. So when you put the pins back in, they don't fit and they need sort of adapting. But regarding anywhere else on the saw or anywhere else on the handle, if you want to kind of reshape it to be something that you want it to be, then you crack on. At this point, it's an ideal time to pop it in your hand and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind a little bit extra kind of beef down the bottom there. So you make that happen and you go, yeah, okay, comfy. Right, I'm going to work through I'm not going to go to 120, I'm going to go straight to 180 just to get the worst off this, and then, yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so I am pretty pleased that I did the 240 on there now. It does feel even smoother and sexier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it all together, and then we can pop some finish on the handle and tidy up the blade as well. The spine should be in the right place. And we should have straightened out any kink that it suggested earlier on. There's certainly no movement in it now. And it looks like most of the kink is gone as well. For the finish, I'm just going to use some Danish oil. I have used linseed oil a lot in the past, but Danish oil will give a little bit extra protection against staining, etc. as well. So we'll wang a bit of this on. This is just the cheap stuff from Screwfix. So let's get this on here and see what it looks like. But that, I'm going to leave that to really soak in overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow. We'll see about sorting out the teeth. We'll give it a final clean up, and that should look a hell of a lot better. Okay, it's day 2, and unfortunately I left this to dry overnight, but because it's so cold, it has not turned out well. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, we don't have the sort of the deep lustrous shine, and it's not sort of in there. It kind of feels a little bit damp still. It's not the best because it's been out in really cold temperatures to dry, and look, it looks as though I've kind of missed stuff, and I made sure that I didn't at the time. But we're going to carry on today to get it usable, and then I can put another finish on it overnight and take it in the house with me so it can dry. I have the heater running in here at the minute, but it's still only 8.1 degrees, and that's been running for a few minutes. So yeah, that's kind of how cold the old workshop's getting. Okay, so getting this Scotch-Brite pad out. These are part of the box I bought of individually wrapped Scotch-Brite pads, which I thought were a great deal. Let's just get this blade on here again. A little bit on here just to take off anything that was kind of left yesterday. And if I want to, I can smooth it out even more. I mean, the blade is feeling super smooth, so I'm having no issues with that. I think we did good stuff yesterday. That's just some Danish oil that I left on there to drip over last night because I'm an idiot, but that'll clean off easily. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to go over the brass a little bit and we can sort that out again later. I mean, I think we're still looking significantly nicer than when we started, so that's the main thing. Right, let's have a little look and see how it cuts through wood. Okay, so this is only softwood. I think this is a bit of pallet wood, bit of pine or something. I've not done anything to the sharpness of this. Now, the teeth themselves don't look in terrible shape, but they don't feel the sharpest. So let's have a little crack and see how it cuts. Well, it definitely cuts, but it's a slow affair. So what we want to do is try and make this a little bit sexier and a little bit punchier. So for that, we'll sharpen it. So what I've gone and done here is I've just sandwiched the blade in between two pieces of wood. So we've still got the blade holding free under there, but on the front here, we can see that we've got all of the teeth ready and able to be sharpened. Now, one thing that we'll see looking on camera there, those teeth don't actually look in terrible shape. They don't look absolutely awful. So I'm not going to worry about jointing, but I will tell you about it in a second. Okay, so what we've got going on here, I've got the saw nice and tight. The blade is nice and tight in the vise. I could possibly have it just a little bit lower, to be honest with you, so there's a little bit less showing on the teeth to stop any vibration. But we'll see how that goes. Now then, what we're going to do is I've got this triangular file. I don't know if that's going to come across on camera because I can't see what I'm doing. But yeah, this triangular file, just a cheap and cheerful, came in a set. Not a special saw file or anything like that. We're going to use that though, as long as it fits. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pop it into one of the teeth and we're going to roll it around to see if we can feel where there is... where there's tension. So like when you're finding a sharpening angle, you kind of roll it to see what's good. To be fair, I think I can have that relatively straight without having a problem. But how do we make sure that we stay straight the whole time? That cut a little square of wood like that, and then you get your angle of the plane, of the file, sorry, however you're going to use it. I'm not putting this at any particular kind of fleam when it comes off to one side or anything like that. I'm not going up or down. Any of that stuff is going perpendicular, so 90 degrees to the blade. And what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I don't twist one side or the other where I shouldn't do. So for this, I'm going to pop a bit of wood on the end of the file, just like that. And then what I can do is, as long as that stays relatively straight, I'll know that I'm not twisting or bending the file. What I'm going to do is start one way, and then I'm just going to do every single tooth all the way. And I'm going to start on the back end first, and we'll crack on with it. Okay, so over the blade there, we can see lots of sort of sharp and shiny bits. So that shows that we've kind of got every single part that we want. If there's any sort of dark spaces in there, you can go back and rectify it. And we can see on the side there that most of those teeth are the same height. There are a couple that are not quite right, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But we're going to give it a try and see if this cuts any better. Now I've just gone over it very quickly with a little file. Okay, so I've just done a couple of test cuts because I was thinking I was filming. I was not. But let's have a little crack on here and I'll show you what this cut's like now. A nice smooth cut. With what seems to be a nice and thin kerf going on as well. So I don't think I need to do anything to set the blade on there, but what I will do is just pop a little bit of wax on the side of the blade. Look at it go. Rob Cosman would be pleased. So that's that. That is how we got from that old nasty looking Tyzac saw to this puppy, which is in much, much better condition. It still looks ropey. I told you at the start I was never going to make it look like new, but it cuts really well. It's back in service again. So once I've got this handle sorted out with a nice stain, or not a stain, the Danish oil nicely on there, then it's going to be a solid little affair that's going to get in my regular rotation, I think. Now, I think this one is about 12 or 13 TPI from what I've measured. But what would you do if the teeth are really, really all over the place? Well, in that instance, you would get a flat file like so. I mean, this one's not overly flat, but you would get a flat file. You would then run that file over the teeth just a couple of times, just to get them all the same height. When you can sight down it and they're all the same height, then you know you're in a strong place. Then you'll get your sharpening out and you'll go for that. Now, when it comes to setting the teeth, you do need a special tool to do that. And if you want to see a video on setting, please do let me know, and I'll make one happen. Just realised the camera is really not straight. Anyway, yeah, if you want to see the set, which is basically, so some teeth go this way, some teeth go this way, and it alternates, you know, and that's what causes the kerf, and the kerf is what stops the blade from sticking. I think I've managed to just kind of get past without needing to do that on this one. However, it is something that I think it might need doing on the next time. I might have to joint it, so flatten out some of the teeth, resharpen them, and then reset a few of them. So if you want to see it, please do let me know. But that essentially has brought this however old Tyzack and Turner saw back to life, and it's cutting like a champ, and I'm really happy with how that's worked out. So yeah, if you've got any other questions, please do let me know, but hopefully this has been useful, and make sure that you're subscribed, because the next video or ish will be a review of a new saw, and then there's going to be a video about saws and tools in general that are UK made. All right, thanks very much for watching. I hope it's been helpful. If I've earned your subscription, please do, and a thumbs up would make me very happy as well. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.